We will begin with the first question. We have the same question for the two round table. And in the light of what the four opening speakers have said before, is there anything that you would like to underline regarding the motivation, opportunities, and challenges associated with the implementation of retail digital euro? That is the main question. Evelien, you are in charge, the difficult charge, to have the first answer.
This works, okay. So first of all, apologies that you all need to talk English because my French is not sufficient to cater for doing the whole discussion in French. I do have to apologize because I'm probably going to repeat some of the points that were made by Piero already earlier today. But I think what we have as a Eurosystem been saying for a long time is that as a start, we believe that the digital euro is, between brackets, just an evolution of cash. We have always worked in a system where we had two ways to pay, either with public money or you paid with private means of payments. We see that people use cash less and less, and we believe that it's important for multiple reasons that we keep the equilibrium that we have had over the years, and that there's also the possibility also in the future that people can pay also in the digital world, because most of us live either in a digital world or you live in a physical world where you prefer to pay with digital means of payment. Having said that, we believe that the digital euro will also very much facilitate the life of our citizens, of merchants, of consumers, because there would be, like with banknotes, one means of payments for different use cases. And let's be honest, we're maybe not even thinking about it. We have got used to it that if you cross borders, that you need to change your means of payment. If you move to different use cases, you need to use different means of payments. With the digital euro, you would be able to travel like with a banknote and be able to pay. And then last but not least, and I think that has been the core of the discussion before the break, is that we believe that the digital euro is also very important for our strategic autonomy, both because of the reliance that we currently have on non-European players, but also for changes in the environment where we, for example, discussed stable coins becoming more dominant, where, as discussed, we are mainly concerned then about non-EU stable coins. So for all these reasons, those three reasons have been from the start the foundation of the reasoning of the Euro system for working on a digital euro. It is not something of the Euro system or of the ECB. It's our money, so it's for all of us. So that's why we find it also very important that there's this draft legislation and that there's also on the legislative side a thorough debate, both in the Council as in the European Parliament, on how this money should look like for the future. And in parallel, we support that with more technical support. And what we also do is facilitate on multiple levels the interaction with market stakeholders, which are the end users, the merchants, and the consumers. As Piero said, they are in the whole debate maybe not the loudest voices because they might be outnumbered by the voices of the PSPs. And the PSPs are on purpose in the center of the design of the digital euro. We find it very important that it's something that is not the Eurosystem providing an app. No, it is like with cash. You go to the bank to get cash. that should be the same for the digital euro. So the core of the design are the banks. They are the distributors of the digital euro, and we value that very much. We find that very important. We also believe that it's a very good way for the digital euro to find a way to the merchants and the consumers. But also, and we also value, and that's what we appreciate because it's not really our mandate, that in the draft legislation, it also foresees in a compensation model. So we are not asking, or the legislators are not asking the banks to do this for free. There will be a compensation for the efforts going forward. And with that, we believe that the digital euro really truly brings benefit for all stakeholders and helps us to keep the current healthy equilibrium, also keep the system stable, also towards the future, and to protect us, also our monetary sovereignty. I'll stop there.
Very much. Maybe Gabriel would like to follow up on that.
No, thank you, Nicolas. And I will try not to repeat what was said. Just to give maybe the analyzing parameters we can use from the public authorities' point of view. Not going into the details of the negotiation, because there is around the retail digital euro project, there is a double nature of the issues. Basically, you have the new form of central bank money. That's what Piero Cipollone explained quite well, and Evelyn again. And you have the new pan-European payment infrastructure. I have to say that one of the key questions to unlock the negotiation in the council and parliament that are not going very, very quickly so far. But to me, again, this is not a big issue that the negotiation on the legislation are not going that quick. Better have a well-based legislation than something that is rushed or that wouldn't succeed. We don't want the project to stall. Of course, I mean, you need to reconcile that with what Piero said about we need the legislation quick to send the signal. First, on the payment infrastructure, I mean, nothing to add to all that has been said around the fact that there is a geopolitical urge for Europe to get more sovereignty than we have today, because we're, let's say, 2/3 not sovereign. On retail payment infrastructure at pan-European level. By the way, that's good that the ECB is working on partnership with other non-euro area members, central banks and payment systems, because we need to think about it at EU level, not just euro area level. And there, to me, I mean, the key thing is we need to unlock, and this is in 2025 that it needs to be done, the public-private discussion. So I interpret the movements that we've seen from EPI, from Bizum, as them starting to get into motion, into the fact that there need to be a discussion with the digital euro project. So that's good, and we need to unlock that. The second nature is quite different, is the monetary sovereignty. And there, I think we need to put more political debate and also more technical debate. So I think the questions that were asked, some of them to Mr. Cipollone, were very interesting around the question of what kind of threats to monetary sovereignty with blockchain development, with the stablecoin development, and with a potential US dominance project. On top of that, I have to say, so far, I don't think we have seen any signal that we would risk more dollarization of the euro area retail economy. I mean, we're not Argentine than was the case before, but that's where the discussion needs to be done, and that's where it's not only legitimate concern by the ECB and the euro system, it's what governments ask from the central bank, that you guys should think about it. And typically all of those works started in 2019 with the Libra Facebook project. So again, there is a case here, and that's I wouldn't say I'm sure that we will be able to unlock entirely that in 2025. But since the question on the pan-European infrastructure, payment infrastructure, should be decided basically strategically in 2025, probably we'll need to have the discussion in 2025 and decide on the monetary issue too. Sorry, and I'm not entirely sure I answered your question, Nicolas, but I didn't want to repeat exactly what was said before.
Thank you, Bernard. I understand that you would like to speak French.
Yes, thank you, Hervé. This morning you said you prefer to use basic English. I prefer to use full French.
Okay, thank you.
It's better for me and for you, and I apologize for you, but I know you understand a little bit French. Pour nos entreprises, vous le savez très bien, nous sommes un peu la queue de l'eau. C'est-à-dire même pas la cerise sur le gâteau, nous sommes le dernier maillon de la chaîne des paiements. Nous utilisons les paiements parce que vous nous les avez créés et tout simplement parce que ça fait partie de notre travail. Et ça, c'est valable pour un commerçant, pour une PME, mais aussi pour les ETI, dans le cadre de nos échanges, que ce soit des services ou de l'industrie ou des produits. Donc le paiement, pour nous, n'est pas la mission principale de nos entreprises, sauf pour les entreprises de paiement. Il y a des PME et des TPE. C'est pour ça qu'aussi, on a besoin d'une Europe forte et d'une industrie dans nos pays forte, industrie de paiement en France forte, comme en Allemagne, comme dans d'autres pays. Ça fait partie aussi de nos échanges. Donc nous, le paiement, c'est l'acte final de la relation commerciale. Et donc, on l'a subi un peu, puisque si vous décidez telle sorte de paiement, telle limite au paiement, nous ne pouvons que y répondre. Je prends un exemple. La loi Sapin avait décidé de limiter les espèces en France à 1 000 €. Ça n'a pas été une demande des entreprises françaises. Vous le savez très bien, on l'a évoqué avec Bercy. C'est pour ça, j'en parle. Et pour autant, nous l'avons appliqué et nous le respectons. Ça fait partie de notre échange. Donc ça, c'est le premier point. Nous ne sommes pas, nous, dans l'ingénierie, dans l'écosystème qui est le vôtre. En revanche, nous avons, et ça c'est vrai, nous l'avons vécu ensemble ces 10 dernières années, il y a, et c'est nouveau, dans les relations de cette industrie de paiement, des moyens de paiement, et aussi des relations dans le cadre de l'européenne, puisque moi je suis membre de l'ERPB depuis 12 ans maintenant, il y a eu une évolution de la relation et de l'audition et de l'attente des entreprises dans le dialogue avec les institutionnels et de l'État, de la Banque de France bien entendu, et aussi des banques de réseau. Ça a été pour moi la grande révolution en matière de paiement. Il y a une nouvelle écoute de Bercy, de la Banque de France et en queue de chaîne des banques de réseau sur nos attentes en matière de paiement. Il y a 20 ans, ce n'était pas le cas. Et cette relation de confiance, cette relation, je le dis de confiance entre guillemets, qui s'est nouée par le fait de participation à un certain nombre de comités, d'observatoires des paiements, du comité national de paiement, a fait que nos entreprises et les attentes de notre entreprise ont été écoutées. Quelles sont les attentes de nos entreprises? Pour ne pas être trop long, mon cher Hervé, tout simplement, c'est que le paiement doit être fluide. Nous, ce qu'on attend, c'est que le paiement il soit fluide. On attend que le paiement il soit honoré, c'est-à-dire qu'il y ait de l'argent derrière. Et je vais vous faire une confidence. Il y a quelques semaines, vous savez, on a parlé des tram tarifs. Et je me suis retrouvé plusieurs fois en plateau télé pour parler de l'euro numérique. Alors les journalistes ne savaient pas ce que c'était. Certains économistes ne savaient pas ce que c'était non plus. Il y avait seul Christian de Boissieu qui comprenait ce que c'était. Et puis les journalistes disaient, mais pourtant l'euro, il n'est pas déjà numérique? Ah oui, parce qu'on a l'euro, mais certains pensent que l'euro, il est déjà numérique, puisqu'on fait des virements. Donc si on fait des virements Ça veut dire que le paiement, il est numérique, puisqu'un virement, c'est un outil numérique. Donc vous voyez, et c'est là où j'en terminerai peut-être, mon cher Hervé, c'est que la difficulté que nous avons à parler le même langage, la difficulté tout simplement de savoir de quoi on parle, et surtout la capacité pour nous à intégrer rapidement des moyens de paiement qui ne soient pas des normes supplémentaires et des contraintes supplémentaires avec, vous le savez bien les uns et les autres, une difficulté d'archivage, de sécurité, de contrôle et de disponibilité. Donc nous aujourd'hui, pour parler de cet euro digital, nous sommes demandeurs dans la mesure où vous nous dites, là je fais un petit peu l'avocat du diable, où vous nous dites que ce sera bien pour nos entreprises. Parce que faire des paiements, c'est un mécano pour nous. C'est-à-dire qu'on ne voit pas l'ingénierie derrière. Nous, on voit tout simplement qu'on va faire un geste numérique, on aura notre argent qui va arriver, il sera sécurisé, il sera reconnu partout. Ça nous aidera peut-être, mais je ne sais pas, ça c'est Bercy qui nous le dira, si ça va améliorer nos délais de paiement, les 16 milliards auxquels on court après depuis un certain nombre d'années et qu'on n'arrive pas à récupérer. Et donc si, effectivement, comme nous sommes des Européens, parce que je peux vous l'assurer, c'est pour qu'il n'y a pas d'anti-européanisme dans nos entreprises, et ça je l'ai vu en Italie le mois dernier, je l'ai vu à Berlin en fin d'année, je l'ai vu au Portugal, nos entreprises, elles aiment l'Europe, mais elles n'aiment pas la surtransposition de contraintes pour nos entreprises. Et c'est là-dessus aujourd'hui où notre réflexion est que nous ne sommes pas demandeurs d'un euro numérique que nous ne connaissons pas. Ben moi, je connais un peu parce que je baigne dans le système. Mais la plupart des entreprises, petites, moyennes et un peu grandes, de nos pays européens, elles n'en ont pas encore l'attrait du goût. Et quand vous n'avez jamais mangé de la mouche au chocolat, il est difficile de dire que vous l'aimez. Voilà un petit peu.
Je pense que nous allons rebasculer vers l'anglais. Yves?
Yes, indeed. Back to English. Your question was about motivations, opportunities, and challenges. I'm going to address motivations and challenges. Motivations. We all heard that there are very good reasons, but strategic reasons, to build a digital euro. One of the issues we have is that these reasons are not market-driven. First of all, geopolitical changes and Visa and MasterCard. Yes, we do have issues with Visa and MasterCard. For instance, when the White House decides of an embargo on a country, all the Visa and MasterCards in the world stop paying in that country. Whatever the EU has decided, if a country is embargoed by the US, Visa and MasterCard card issues in France or in Europe cannot operate in the embargoed country. So we do have geopolitical issues around Visa and MasterCard. But there is a paradox. If we want to build something that is competing with Visa and MasterCard, it cannot be operated by the central bank. Because if it is operated by the central bank, there is no way it can work outside the Eurozone or at least outside Europe. No foreign country in their right mind will accept a means of payment that is operated by the European Central Bank. So it is bound to remain European. So it's not going to compete with Visa and MasterCard. I will keep either a Visa or a MasterCard card because I want to be free to travel outside of Europe. So if we want to build a solution that is competing with Visa and MasterCard, it has to be a private solution. It cannot be an ECB solution. Stable coins and crypto assets. We are being told again and again that the digital euro is going to compete with stable coins and crypto assets. Well, we have had a demonstration today that at this stage, it is not the case in the retail market. Until we have a tokenized form of a digital euro that can be used on public blockchains, it will not compete with stable coins. There is a missing link. And that was obvious from earlier discussions today. So at the end of the day, maybe the digital euro is a solution, but it is not the solution, and sometimes it is not a solution at all. Moving on to challenges, I see three big challenges for the digital euro. The first one is adoption. Why would consumers decide to use the digital euro? Because at the end of the day, governments, regulators, and even merchants do not decide for the consumer. The one and only one who decides is the consumer. So why would the consumer decide to use the digital euro when, as far as they're concerned, there is nothing new in the digital euro? This is a key question we need to address, because launching the digital euro does not mean that it will be adopted by the general population. The second issue is cost. Well, I don't know where the ECB heard that it is going to be a cheap project for the banks, but these are not the figures we have internally. The figures are incredibly high. So we are going to build something that is going to be very expensive, first of all, to taxpayers, because the billions the ECB is going to invest are going to come from somewhere. And also, the government will have to make sure that the digital euro is accepted everywhere for public services. That will have a cost, hence a cost for the taxpayers. And of course, there is a huge cost for the private sector. All the merchants who, by law, will have to accept the digital euro, whether it is used or not. They will have to invest for that. And of course, there is a huge cost for the financial sector, banks and PSPs. And to conclude, I have an issue about the environment. The digital euro will kick in the fourth decade of the 21st century. And altogether, we are working on a means of payment which will transform a payment transaction into three IT transactions. First, a funding transaction, which is more similar to a foreign exchange transaction than a transfer. Then a transfer, which is what we do today, by the way. And then another transaction between the merchants and their bank, because they will have to transform those digital euros they cannot hold into, say, standard or commercial euros. So we are replacing one single transaction with three transactions. What is the carbon footprint of that digital euro?
Thank you. Clément, you have two roles.
That's right.
You are a technical provider in payments, and you are also PSP in some place. So what is your opinion about motivation and challenges more?
Yeah, which is indeed a very good question. Anyway, a lot of things were said already from very different perspectives, and it's very difficult not to repeat all what was said, to be very honest. But I will just try to give some different angles on this. Just on the motivation, I think we did not speak so much about some countries which are from the Eastern Europe. I mean, we focus very much on the France and all those countries where you have already quite some different payment means on the market. And if you look at Eastern Europe, you have less choices. If I look at the merchant today, they don't have so many choices sometimes. It's only the international scheme. So just to reflect on that from the motivation perspective, it could be something that could be interesting to look into. Now, looking at the challenges, I think a lot were said, and I also agree very much with what was said just before on the consumer side. We should not forget that. The consumer is the one deciding at the very end of the day. And this is something, this is for me crucial for the ECB to ensure that it's going to be taken into account very strongly. I think we've seen as well the players, the PSP as well. I'm also speaking on behalf of Worldline saying that, of course, but we need to ensure that the integration into the environment is very clear. I've seen from the previous discussion that it's at least the ambition from the ECB, which I fully subscribe to. So I think but it's a key challenge that we need to take into account. And besides that, I also heard about BZOOM, EPI, let's say all those new wallets coming in. I think it's something that we also need to consider. I think we should not forget that we have a very strong local champion in Europe that are really worth it. And finally, on the opportunity, I'd like to take an analogy on from a different perspective as well. I mean, we could also see the digital euro, like if you look at your mobile phone today, I mean, you have an OS, so either iOS or Android, right? Or maybe others. And then you have apps. You could see the digital euro as the enabler, you know, on the device, like it could be the OS in the end. And then on top of that, you can innovate, build on top of it. And this could be typically, if you look at opportunity perspective, something that could be pushed forward where the private sector can really innovate on top of that. So I think there is a clear balance, a frontier to find between the private and then the ECB to be sure that everyone gets something out of it.
Thank you, Nicolas. This question.
Thank you, Clément. So now we are at the end of the first round of questions. Let me put the second question. What are the main conditions for the success of retail digital euro? And what are the risks? And how do you think it's possible to address these challenges in order to make the most of the opportunities offered by the digital euro? So, Bernard, you would speak first and back in French, I guess.
Oui, l'enjeu pour nous, avant toute chose, et c'est pour ça que nous sommes depuis un certain nombre d'années dans la réflexion des paiements européens. Cette réflexion sur les paiements européens, elle a pour nous une colonne vertébrale qui est la stabilité de la monnaie et la stabilité des échanges. Et ça, c'est le travail que l'on fait avec la Banque de France depuis un certain nombre d'années, dans le cadre de ce qui s'appelle maintenant le Conseil national des paiements. C'est vrai que ce qui est extrêmement important pour nous, c'est que pour nos entreprises, le paiement, il soit stable, sécurisé, il soit rapide et il soit reconnu. En l'absence de ce type de postulat, de colonne vertébrale, ce que j'appellerais d'airbag, tout le reste pour nous est un danger. Et pourtant nous avons besoin d'améliorer nos échanges en Europe. Nous l'avons pu le voir depuis le début de l'année. Il y a un enjeu de réorienter nos échanges commerciaux et financiers en Europe. Malheureusement, les règles ne sont pas toutes les mêmes. Comme je suis le seul politique, entre guillemets, de la bande, sauf, enfin, on va dire, voilà. J'ai posé la question il y a quelques semaines au ministre des Affaires européennes, Benjamin Haddad, et je lui ai dit, alors, cette Europe des capitaux, c'est pour quand? Parce que ça fait partie aussi de cette réflexion. C'est, vous savez, une maison à plusieurs étages. Il m'a dit, on y travaille, on y travaille. J'ai dit, oui, mais tu y travailles depuis longtemps. Donc, on y travaille. Donc, c'est important pour nous. Et ça, c'est dit au-delà du côté poujadiste de notre relation à l'euro et à l'Europe. Moi, je pense, et nous pensons que l'Europe, c'est comme l'air que l'on respire. On ne peut pas vivre sans Europe aujourd'hui. Mais si l'État, les professionnels des paiements, notre banque centrale, qui a beaucoup évolué de manière positive depuis l'arrivée de ce gouverneur il y a quelques années, par son attention particulière à l'écosystème entreprise, nous avons besoin de ce type de paiement qui peuvent nous permettre de travailler tranquillement. Tant qu'il y a un risque, une difficulté, une incompréhension, pour nous, ça obère la confiance. Et c'est là-dessus, je voulais peut-être, ce que nous essayons de construire avec vous aujourd'hui, c'est un espace européen des paiements à travers cet euro digital, qui soit simple, qui soit facile, qui soit accessible, qui soit sécurisé, qui soit lisible, et qui n'impose pas une strate supplémentaire, je reviens sur mon obsession, de contraintes à nos entreprises. Et à ce moment-là, bien entendu, nous considérons que pour nous, et ce sera un élément de dynamique, comme on a eu cette dynamique de CPME il y a quelques années, quand on l'a fait avec avec un certain nombre d'entre vous. Ben oui, on y a travaillé, hein, vous vous souvenez, hein, on y a beaucoup réfléchi ensemble, avec la banque aussi, mais hein, on en a fait des réunions. Hein. Donc voilà, tout ça fait par le dialogue, par l'échange, mais avec cette capacité pour vous, les professionnels, l'écosystème, que j'appelle les sachants, y compris pour l'État, et bien entendu notre banque centrale, de penser aux petits. Petite entreprise, c'est pas une grande entreprise en plus petit. C'est pas possible. Bah, c'est autre chose, c'est un autre écosystème. Et nous attendons de l'Europe la reconnaissance de notre identité, que les SMEs soient identifiés comme des structures à part entière, qui a un mode de fonctionnement à part entière. Voilà, mon cher Hervé.
Merci. Yves, in English, condition of success and risks.
The conditions of success. We already mentioned the key condition of success, adoption. We must make sure that the digital euro is appealing to consumers. And today, I do not know why consumers would use it. Because to them, there is nothing new. Of course, we have a lot of strategic reasons to do it, but why would they use it? We need to answer that question. And if we don't have an answer to that question, maybe we should downsize the project and spend a little less more, because it's not going to fly. Well, assuming it flies, assuming people use it, then the second issue we have is that today we do not have a sustainable compensation model. I heard with a lot of interest Mr. Cipollone saying that the level of revenues of the banks would be the same whether a payment is done in digital euros or whether it is done with a card. The problem is that the ECB is not the one writing legislation. The draft European legislation says that 75% of the payments done in digital euros should be operated at a loss by the financial sector, meaning that the interchange fee would be minimal. It's not the ECB's wish, but it is the Commission's wish. And today, the way the legislation is designed leaves no room for profits for the financial sector to offset the investments, but even to offset the price of the cost of operating the system. And nowhere is anybody talking about fraud levels, fraud prevention, the cost of fraud. It seems like we have found the magic means of payment that will have no fraud. Well, we need to deal urgently with these compensation model issues. Finally, about the risks. The big risk is a crowding out effect of the European Euro project on payments, on innovation in payments. Whether it is successful or not, we will spend zillions on the digital euro to build the digital euro. Maybe it's not that expensive according to the ECB, but the manpower which is going to be needed to build it is huge, meaning that there is not one single IT person in Europe who understands payment who will be working on another issue, because all the banks will need to invest dozens, if not hundreds of millions. That will draw all the IT resources available on payments in Europe. Not one firm in Europe will still be working on innovation. Who will be working on innovation in payments? The Americans and the Asians. So at the end of the day, whether it is successful or not, what the digital euro project will lead to is actually an increase of innovation coming from outside of Europe. This is absolutely sure because of the tremendous cost of the project. So crowding out effect, we will be swamped by this project and will do nothing else.
Yeah, okay. To me, so I would look at it from two angles again, from the, let's say, the industry perspective and from the consumer perspective. And I will start with the industry. I think we mentioned, of course, and I will not come back to this discussion between private and public sector, which is obviously key for the success. But I would more look into other aspect, which is the integration within the ecosystem. I think if you look at today, I mean, the ambition from the ECB is to be able to be, I would say, everywhere in terms of use case, potentially. Maybe I will be contradicted afterwards. I don't know. Which will have an impact, of course, on the existing, let's say, devices and terminals and all those things. So it's something that needs to be considered, and to succeed there, we need to be sure that it will be very much looked into. And linked to that, it's more how it should be deployed. I mean, potentially, why not phasing a bit? I mean, in case, again, it's going live, phasing the project, because doing a big bang approach might not be so easy, I think, for the industry and for everyone, but also for the consumer. I mean, you need to ensure that at some point you find the right use case. I think it was said before. I mean, so the value that's going to be provided to the consumer needs to be there, and maybe finding the right use case, the right spot, let's say this way, will be a good way to start to test and to ensure that there is a fit, let's say, to the market, and then to be able to roll it out further. And maybe now I'm on the consumer side. So I think education, I think it was also said this morning, but education is key, really key for the consumer, to ensure that we do get it. Because indeed, if you ask to anybody around you, I mean, nobody gets it. Let's face it, from the pure consumer perspective. So we need to be very careful here. Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult. And maybe another aspect that I hear a lot, it's around privacy. And I'm not debating on the fact that it's not private, of course. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that it's a concern for the consumers, and I think it needs to be tackled. So it's linked to education as well, to ensure that the people are really aware of what's going on.
Thank you. Gabriel, do you have a microphone?
Thank you very much. I'll start maybe quickly with the risk, if you want me to take it in reverse order, just because it gives me the occasion to jump on what Clément just said. I think the debate on privacy and on how this new form of money, or this new payment product directly owned by the public sector will be received is a key question that hasn't been tackled yet, and probably is best not to try to tackle it too soon. But we have seen not much in France also, but in some other part of Europe, we have seen that it can very quickly go into misinterpretation, into conspiracy theories or whatever. And even if we try to debunk that, there will always be some that might have a political interest into getting that as an angle for political means. So the debate should be, because we're talking about money, so we're talking about regalia, about something that is very, very important for the state and for geopolitical reasons, but also very intimate and very close to citizens and to the daily life, because wholesale, I mean, nobody cares. In our families, cash or means of payments, of course, are day to day. So, but this will be a key issue to me. It's not so much a risk as something where you should go to the public with a very clear idea of what it means to the public. Which leads to my two remarks, not on the risks, because I already said that having a stalled project for years would be a risk per se. I mean, it wouldn't be good that the euro would have its name attached with something that doesn't work. We want something to work, and it's definitely time to do it. So the two conditions for success I would insist on are probably, first, referring to what I said at the beginning. We need to build the consensus, and so far as today's discussions show, consensus is not there yet, but we need to build it. So that's where we should work on, maybe, and it's because I've been asked for by my neighbor on the left, maybe spending some time into working again a little bit more on the use cases would be a good idea, and it's part of the project anyway, because on the public-private partnership to distribute the digital euro, to make sure that adoption of a new pan-European means of payment in the pocket of citizens, to make sure it works, you will need to go into what makes it appealing for consumers, because consumers decide in the end. If we're true, consumers decide, they can be nudged by merchants, nudged by the banks or PSPs. So we need to build that, and that is a key condition for success. And I think we're now entering the phase where we should organize a little bit more. I mean, I'm talking about ourselves, so the states, right, in the way we negotiate the legislative proposal, so that we take a little bit more care about that. And point well taken about simplification, and let's have something that is a layer that is simple to integrate. And second is, and then it will be a message not so much for public authorities, because my first point on building consensus, it's to be driven by public authorities, but we will ask the private sector to answer. The second is we need to build scale. And there, I mean, I would say at European level, and this is the other way around. I mean, by itself, the ECB is the federal institution. It's scaled by nature. And that's a powerful thing to give to the overall and shared between public and private, the shared goal of European sovereignty in payments. So basically, so to say, public authorities say, we offer you that. We offer you European scale. Now is the time for the private sector to take this offer and say, okay, the intention is good. Now we would like to work it a little bit differently, but this is how we could make it work. Building on the scale offered by the fact that the euro system would be at the core of the system. And so we need to build the scale, and that's where a movement we've seen from EPI and from BZOOM lately is, to me, a very positive signal, because it says, okay, they understood that they need to speed up on building the scale. My only message is movement is very welcome. It's only the first step. So now we will need to scale for real.
A lot have been said by the previous speakers. So please now, Evelien, please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, where to start? Because a lot have been said. But let me start with something I think Yves said at the beginning. And I agree to a lot of points that he has brought. So first of all, the digital euro is not a business case driven thing. The ECB is not doing this to make a profit or anything like that. So yes, the reasons that we give are of a strategic policy nature. That is fully true. Also, the point that he brought is that in the end, it is key that it brings value to the whole system. So let's start with the consumers and the merchants. And we find it important, as I said before, that also the distributors, which we see as the banks, have a benefit, and the benefit could be multiple. Elaborate a bit on that. So I agree very much that making the digital euro success, and it's also something that Gabriel said, is a common interest of all of us. And in that, we try not to work in an ivory tower. And so we have from the start in the project set up platforms involving consumers, involving merchants, involving also the PSPs, because we truly believe that we need to have all stakeholders, and together that we define a good solution. What is a pity, I think, is that specifically, I have to say, with the PSPs, this discussion is not progressing too much, because we every time go back to should there be a digital euro at all? And then we sort of deviate from okay, how can we design it for success? So I would very much build also on what Gabriel said, and I really hope, and we are here, and we are doing this actually throughout the project, but I keep repeating it, we need to do this together. We want to do this together. So come to the table, bring the concerns that are there, and the concerns that are mentioned today, not mentioned, but at least not in this panel, financial stability, but also maybe crowding out, or is it attractive enough? Is it private enough? These are things that we could, but then we also need to together say, okay, if not this, whatever we have proposed, we think this is better. And then we can have a debate and we can find a common way forward that brings really value to all. On the speed and on the investments, as Pierre already said, we are really committed to make the digital euro implementation both for the merchants as well as for the PSPs, as well, by the way, also for the euro system, as cost efficient as possible. There will be investments, but let's try to make them as efficient as possible. And also let's see how we can do this over time. But let's sit to the table. So we're very happy that there was a publication already by the Italian banking sectors, but we are talking later this month with the a big group of banks that have done cost studies to really sit at the table. Is what is driving your cost? Are there ways that we can reduce the cost? Are there ways that we can spread it over time? So that the horror scenario that Yves put forward will not become a reality. This is not our intention. Having said that, and then maybe pointing to the comments that or the references that were made to the private initiatives. If we talk about spending our money, and I talk of the full market, as efficient as possible, I think it's in the interest of everybody that there's a clarity on the digital euro, how it would look like, if it will come, when it will come. Because currently we see private initiatives investing in standards and investing in rolling that out, which for the use cases that are currently done peer-to-peer is fine. But if you go to the point of sale, as said before, the most cost-efficient way to do that is to do it together. So we open up the use cases, both e-commerce and POS, with one standard, which is an open standard that we do together with a common view how to do that. So that's best for the merchants because they know that they don't need to invest separately for, I don't know, Bizum and for EPI and then later for the digital euro, but we have a common way forward and then we do our investment as efficiently as possible. Last thing on the concerns on adoption, we are also doing, and not only us, but also others are doing regularly studies with market participants and consumers. And what we see is that over time, the awareness of a digital euro has grown significantly. But also the people that say, oh, if there would be a digital euro, I would be interested to use it. Is relatively high. It depends a bit on the study, but it's around 40% that says, well, why not? Or and that's without having done any big campaign, any conversation. So I think, yes, we need to design this in a way it's good for everybody, and let's do that together. Let's overcome the challenges that are still there, and then make it a joint success. I think there's a solid foundation to make a real European payment landscape that includes private initiatives, European private initiatives, and the digital euro.
Thank you.